All right, thank you, Mary. Okay, this is the May 10th meeting of the Board of Directors. I'm going to start sharing the agenda on the screen. The agenda that I sent out ahead of this meeting had a couple of incorrect pieces on it. I hadn't updated the date in the header. And down here at the bottom, it still said that the next meeting would be on May 10th, which is today, which would be inaccurate. So we have an agenda and an opportunity to review it and approve it.
I move to approve.
I would second.
All right, Kenny moves and Brad seconds. Is there any objection? All right, hearing none, the meeting is, or excuse me, the agenda is approved. Real quick, for the sake of future minute taking, I want to list off the participants in this meeting. There's myself, Will Hobson, Kenny Cernak, Brad Lee, Tim Sipple, and then for non-directors, or excuse me, non-voting directors, we have Matt Rao and Mary Collins. All right, moving along to approval of minutes. Did we just lose somebody?
I don't see Bradley on the list anymore.
Yep.
That would,
Okay, I'm going to hold for a moment while Brad gets back in the Zoom. He is attempting to join again. All right, we have you back, Brad. Scared us for a moment because we don't have quorum without you. All right.
Sorry about that bad cell coverage there.
Okay. Thanks for coming back. All right, approval of the minutes. There are not any minutes available. I will want to address that again when we get down to the secretary's report. I should correct myself. There aren't minutes available from the last meeting. There are minutes that were submitted in between meetings for catching up, but they had all been submitted as of last time we met. And the board chose to approve those by email, which it has not yet done. So there's nothing in the consent agenda either. Open forum. Observers may speak on any agenda item. Do we have anything from Mary or Matt? All right, well, thank you for joining us this evening. And with it being small like this, feel free to raise your hand, and I'm pretty sure there won't be any objection if you have something that you want to chime in on. Reports of officers. I am the chair. I had a very busy and slightly traumatic last couple of weeks in my personal life. A lot of stuff going on as far as family events and happenings around my property with regards to projects and whatnot. And then also a week ago, my wife had to, I had to take my wife to the ER where she had emergency surgery because of an ovarian torsion. And so that took a chunk of time, and also we had have had to deal with the recovery period for over this last week or so. Anyway, I have not done most of my committee work. I was able to meet with a good portion of the convention committee to make sure that everything was going to work well for the audio at the venue, and it looks like we're on track there. And I was not able to meet with the bylaws committee, so there is not final language on bylaws proposals. And so the only other thing that I believe I've done for committees in between meetings is that I updated the minutes on the website with the minutes that we did approve at the last meeting. So yeah, feeling a little bit overwhelmed, not with Libertarian Party stuff, just with personal stuff, and that of course has in turn has an effect on Libertarian Party of Oregon stuff, and that is part of why I did not run for re-election. So better luck to the next board, but of course I'm planning to stick around and help out the new board where I can. The only other items to add to my report is that as of the time period in between these last two meetings, I have finished my payment installments, and am now a lifetime member of the Libertarian Party. And taxation is theft. I can take any questions.
I'm glad to hear that your wife is home and recovering. So that's it's great to hear. So that sounds like the surgery went well. So
Yep. There's been just a little bit of difficulty, but nothing that you can really even call a complication. So pretty thankful for modern medicine.
indeed, and also congratulations on your lifetime membership.
Thank you. I plan to stick around. All right, that was it for the chair. I just want to check. We had Marion Skinner appear as a observer for a moment, but she has disappeared from the meeting again. Now I'm passing it along to the vice chair.
Yeah, we did meet at the venue and looked at any difficulties that we might have in doing a Zoom for during the convention, and it appears to be very doable. We may even get the venue early the night before and get a crack at it beforehand, but that is not a guarantee. But even still, we should have plenty of time to have everything set up. Yeah, it does seem that we are losing a little bit of momentum on some projects, and that is, to be expected with everyone very busy with, their personal life and, commitments, and I totally understand. And yeah, we hopefully will get enough done to, pull off the convention and have a good time. I will definitely try to work hard to make sure that happens. Yeah, I have been posting more on our social media accounts. We've got Instagram up and running now again. We are working with a couple people to produce some graphics for that we can now post that were approved by the Public Policy Board. So I now have those chambered and just need to get access to them. And I can post them. And see what else is going on. Yeah, we're just trying to get ready to get through this convention and get moving on to the our next projects. Get committees meeting, get the new leadership ironed out. So I just personally found out because I'm an economics nerd that the the interest payments on the national debt will surpass what we pay for Social Security this year. Likely, we are on a trajectory course for that. So I'm kind of grappling with that. Like, I just found that out like 30 minutes to an hour ago, so I'm still grappling with the implications of that. I geek out to too many dark economic things. Yeah. Yeah, that's all I got for right this moment that it's immediately coming to mind. So if you have any questions, I'll take them. All right. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Will. And we'll pass it along to our treasurer, Kenny.
Hello. So we've got just shy of 2,200 bucks in the bank. I am still behind on stuff, but I have 2 weeks to get all caught up because I'm not handing a shit show to the next treasurer, whoever that may be.
Thanks, Kenny.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions for Kenny? All right. Moving along to the secretary's report. I was hoping Taylor would be here this evening, but he's not.
I do have some news about Taylor, if I may.
Okay.
Taylor does seem like he's going to be stepping back from some of his responsibilities. I'm not sure if that means he's possibly stepping down from his board seat should he have been elected to it. But he is, it sounds like he's going to be pulling back pretty extensively on his involvement due to personal life issues that have kind of come to a head. So I don't know if he wants me to say anything more, so I'll leave it at that. But he has some more pressing engagements in his life, and it may even be up to him stepping down from leadership should he be elected. So just wanted to
All right.
pass that along that yeah, he may be MIA for a while. So
Okay. Well, unfortunately, he has not fulfilled his duties as secretary, which I think that for the simple reason that the directors, are liable for the actions of this party and making sure that we're producing things to stay legally compliant, like producing minutes. I am going to move to remove Taylor as secretary. And I will complete the remaining minutes here this coming week.
I think he would understand and not take that personally. So
And I believe so as well. I was hoping that he was going to be here. I don't like doing it without him here, but this is unfortunately kind of the last straw with unfortunately it's been pushed back too far, and this was literally the last chance to catch up. And yeah, I like Taylor, but I think that we need to have a record of the board taking action to address the delinquency.
I understand.
I'll second, and I have a question.
Yes.
Just to make sure I understand, we are removing the officer role, but he will still be a voting director, correct?
Correct. We don't have the ability to remove him unless he misses 2 meetings. I believe 2 meetings in a row is what I recall is our bylaw situation. And he was at our last meeting, and I wasn't intending to move him from director, even if that were the case.
Yeah.
All right. So I moved and Kenny seconded. I'm going to do a roll call vote. We're going to start with Will.
Aye.
Kenny.
Aye.
Tim.
Aye.
Brad,
Aye.
and I will vote aye. So as of right now, we do not have a secretary. I will say that it is my understanding that a guest that we're going to be having at the convention is willing to take minutes for our convention,
Yes.
which is great.
Oh,
And I'm thinking to go further into that as far as that goes under the convention stuff, if that works for you, Will.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that last bit?
I was just gonna say I was hoping to talk a little more about our guests and stuff under convention.
Yes,
Items.
yes, I
Okay.
did space on that
Yeah.
big announcement. Yeah.
All right, and then I also wanted to assure you that I'll get these minutes done.
Thank you.
So unfortunately, we're going to be conducting some business in between this meeting and the transitional board meeting. And so the next board is going to have to be the one to approve a consent agenda of items that they didn't necessarily have a lot to do with for the most part. But that's just the situation that we're in. So
Do we need a secretary?
we do, in a certain sense, but I would say that it would be reasonable to think that that role would be filled not in the same meeting necessarily that the vacancy occurred. I don't think our bylaws require us to continuously have a secretary. I don't think that would be a reasonable burden. Anyway, and so I think that we're going to be all right with having the convention covered by our guest secretary and having the that at the end of the convention, I'm expecting that we're going to have a transitional board meeting and a new secretary will be selected then. So I think that this iteration of the board is probably going to be secretary-less for the remainder of the term, unless somebody moves to appoint someone in the interim.
Well, I was considering doing that, but I have no idea who we would appoint. So
Well, if you know anybody who wants to watch all the YouTube recordings and create minutes off of them, let me know. But otherwise, I'm just going to start.
Aside from the gentleman that's already volunteered.
I'm actually not certain whether our bylaws say I can be multiple officers at the same time, but that's all right. It doesn't particularly matter. I can do the work anyway. All right. Anything else under the secretary's report?
Tim,
Hi, Mary.
can you and I talk about what would be involved to step up and be secretary for the rest of the term? Like outside of the meeting?
Yep, that would be fine.
Cool.
How about we plan on, once this meeting is officially concluded, staying on the Zoom for a few more minutes and talking about that. All right,
Yeah,
thanks.
Will do. Yep.
Okay. Moving along then, we have reports of committees and directors. Fundraising. Taylor Rickey is currently listed as the fundraising chair, although it sounds as though he may be stepping back. I think that that's something that the next board is going to have to sort out as far as who is heading what committee when they're in charge. Anything for fundraising before we move on? It does seem like we had a little bump in between meetings.
Yeah, I think we had about 500 come in since the last meeting.
All right.
I also have a check for you, Kenny. About $100.
All right, sweet.
Let's get that in the bank. All right. Oh, and I'm sorry to bring it up in a totally random place, but I have the other key for the post office. The previous holder of that key mailed it to me. So I'll, of course, be making sure to pass that along. Moving down then to campaigns, we have Mr. Rao.
Good evening, everybody. We were scheduled to have a campaigns committee meeting on Monday night, but and if you can tell, my voice is a little hoarse right now. I just got over a bad case of tonsillitis, and I'm still nursing my wife who has got a severe case of it. And but instead of doing the meeting, I thought it'd be more practical actually to do something that I've got some experience at, which is writing questionnaires. And I wrote a questionnaire for the membership of the campaigns committee about what their interest is, why they're on the committee, what their history is with the committee and the party, what kind of tasks they might be interested in doing or committing an hour to 2 hours a week starting in mid-July too, so we can start to really sort of make estimations on how many people can we get focused on door knocking or on stuffing envelopes for mail solicitations or dialing for dollars or delivering signs to a candidate or working on myriad issues that we could be working on to help our candidates even with our modest resources. And so really what I think I've struggled in trying to assess some of putting together a campaign apparatus for the LPO is really just knowing where all of our resources are, because you don't know what everybody's talents are, what their relationships are, what their histories are. And so I wanted to limit it to 10 questions. I sent it out to the committee's membership, which there's only, I think, 6 of us on there at this point. So it's not large. I don't think I've gotten any responses back yet, but I'm hoping in the next week or so we get the responses of all the committee in, and I'd like to compile their answers for the most part, particularly on some of the questions about what they think about how the party's utilized fusion in the past, if it's as advantageous to us as it has been for incumbent Republicans, and things of that nature, just to see their perspective on maybe making some recommendations to the next board on how we ought to look at adjusting things as we develop the nominating process for 2024. Not overstepping bounds, just coming up with suggestions. And so I think as for now, it's really taking account of all of that and then trying to start building the teams to each particular task, such as trying to help on fundraising, particularly for political expenses, working on phone banking, working on lit drops, things of that nature, that we can really start working on even as early as the fall if we have candidates in place. Though I think hitting the ground that early is a waste of time and momentum, to be perfectly frank, and energy. Folks would be much better spent organizing dialing for dollars or organizing on social media or going to register voters at the college campuses even. But there's a lot of work that's being done as far as deciding what the vision of the committee is going to be, and realistically, what role we politically want to play in 2024. I think, especially with a number of key state legislative races, we can be the deciding factor, the determinant factor in those races. And then the question is, how do we leverage that to best advocate for policies for our members and for the party as a whole? While at the same time, hopefully, getting some folks elected to nonpartisan offices if we can't secure a legislative seat. So there's some ambitious goals. There is real work being done. But again, I think that the good weather, people's personal lives, and all of us have been dealing with personal stuff lately, I understand. And just a real nasty spring for illnesses. I think of just really sort of taking some of the wind out of the sails, but I think we're moving in the right direction now. I'd also like to say that I'd like to send this questionnaire out and modify it a little bit to the outgoing board, the incoming new board, and also the policy committee, because if the campaigns committee is going to be effective in providing support to our candidates, obviously we need to have buy-in from not just this one little committee, but have buy-in from all the decision makers and activists that lead the party. And I would say one thing before I wrap up my report, that I'm sorry to see Mr. Perkins go as chairman. I think he's done an admirable job. I don't know if Mr. Perkins remembers, but I called him up out of the blue, I think summer of 2021. And if I hadn't had such a good conversation with Mr. Perkins, I don't think I'd be here today. He though he's firm in his convictions, he also understands that this party needs to be one where we build alliances. You can have folks you disagree with in the party, at the same time be strong in your principle. Not that I would speak for him in his beliefs, but that's the vibe I got. And I think you did an admirable job keeping the peace. And congratulations on your lifetime membership and a respite. But you got a spot on the campaigns committee if you want one. Best of luck to you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Rao. And I was going to suggest that if you particularly, if you get some helpful data from that form or questionnaire, I should say, that it would be useful to, it would quite probably be useful to use for the incoming board to evaluate where their skills might be best applied. So yeah, I hope that you carry that thought forward and bring it to not the transitional board meeting necessarily, but their next regular meeting after that. And thank you for your kind words. Any questions for Mr. Rao? Hearing none, we'll move down to the next report, which is public relations. Will.
Yes, we have started using our Instagram account. I was hoping to post daily, but ran into a snafu with getting access to some of our new content that we have. So if anybody has the access to that Google Drive with the content that the Public Policy Board approved, I would love it. And I am going to speak with the chair of the Public Policy Board in person tomorrow at their Sherman County meeting. So if all fails, I'll get it then. But if you have it now, I can post tomorrow or tonight. So anyway, yeah, I also I'm spending some money to have our Twitter account verified. So we have a blue check for the Oregon Twitter account now, and when we do start making posts with it, it will hopefully amplify our reach. I am, what else? And I also reached out to I guess this gets into the convention committee a little bit, but I might as well because this is public relations. I reached out to a couple different groups to table at the convention. We may possibly have a gold and silver dealer that's local to the area join us. I reached out to Children's Health Defense Fund of Oregon. We are looking for local gun groups to come to the convention. I believe Marion is working on that with me, and but the big one we'll be having, I think, is Karen Ann Harless, our national secretary, and also largely regarded as our party historian, will be joining us at the convention at the end of the month in person. And she has agreed to bring some historical artifacts from yesteryear from the Libertarian Party of Oregon and show them off, and also be the convention secretary, and that's super cool. So I did pay to get her to fly out here. I did pay her for a plane ticket. I'm probably going to be putting her up at my house. So yeah, I felt like the convention could use someone like her to help us out and to bring a little excitement and some national leadership to the convention. Maybe she could give us some great advice on how to proceed with our state affiliate. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I have a quick question there. Did you see the email from Pablo ahead of this meeting?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll talk about it down under the convention then.
Okay. That's my report, I guess, for public relations.
All right. Any questions for public relations? Okay. Thank you, Will. IT, Pablo's not here. He gave us a heads up, and we have received also an email from Rachel saying that she had a work conflict and isn't able to make it to tonight's meeting. With regards to IT, Pablo has been out of state a fair amount the amount of the month that has passed, and has had relatively little spare time to spend on IT related things. I would say that the biggest thing that he's trying to work on at the moment is getting our election tabulated. But I'll address that specifically further down under the leadership elections portion of the agenda. So that's all that I'm aware of with regards to IT, except that he's also using the NDA from the National Libertarian Party's CRM that we're a part of as a tool for whenever we're handling sensitive data with volunteers, making sure that any volunteers who are handling sensitive data have signed that NDA, which has, I think, been a good step in making sure that we're being careful with our member data. Anything else for IT? All right, hearing none. Bylaws, that's me. The bylaws committee did not meet. We were supposed to meet. I had things come up and we didn't meet. We will have a report, even if I need to do it myself. I'm not throwing my committee members under the bus there. They're extremely helpful, but we're going to have bylaws proposals available for the convention, and those will be forwarded to the board for final approval ahead of the convention. Any questions on bylaws? All right, the only thing that I would add there is that we did have a very helpful questionnaire sent out, a survey about the bylaws proposals that the committee had come up with. Lots of very helpful feedback there that's helping us to pare some things back and add in some suggestions. And then also as a follow-up to that, on our YouTube channel, there's a recording of a meeting where the bylaws committee met, discussed that questionnaire with some interested members who attended. So again, that's on our YouTube channel. Moving down then to the affiliate committee. Katie is not here. Does anyone have anything for affiliate? Okay. I don't have anything there. Member development, Brad.
Well, in the theme of personal and business chaos, limiting spare time, unfortunately, I do not have anything on membership development this month.
All right. Well, thank you very much for being here tonight. That's it then for reports of committees and directors. There are no special orders. Unfinished and new business. LPO Convention Committee. And it looks to me as though Pablo was stating in his email today that Angela McCardle has been finalized as a keynote speaker. Were you was this on your radar? Is this something Pablo managed on the side?
I thought they were going to try to do that. I didn't hear that it had been confirmed. So that's great to hear.
Okay. So he sent out an email saying he'd be absent from the meeting. The IT committee is working on the LP voting app. And then as far as the convention, he says, finalized Angela McCardle as our keynote speaker for the LP convention and organizing a phone bank to invite members to the convention. So seems as though we're expecting to have the chair and the secretary of the National Party here. And ironically, I recall a conversation between you and myself, Will, last year where we discussed that exact possibility.
She's actually going to be here in person?
I don't know as far as whether she's going to be here in person or via Zoom.
I assume it's remote, but
Quite possibly.
Yeah.
All right. So there will be more details on that. I'm sure that will be provided for the Public Relations Committee to put out there, and for the Convention Committee to integrate into the schedule. With regards to Convention Committee, I know that there's still a fair amount of work to do. We need to finalize the delegate packet, and then we need to make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row as far as volunteers and who's assigned what task for the day of convention. But I do want to say that I think that we do seem to have a lot of preparations in place, and I'm looking forward to it. Do you have anything else on convention, Will, before we turn over for questions?
I will be putting out a graphic so hopefully by tomorrow morning for some of the auxiliary events that I was going to try to host for the convention. I'm going to be having on Friday, I'm going to be having basically what I was getting down to is I was trying to get a fundraiser event going for the LPO to do like a whiskey tasting or cocktail fundraiser or something relating to alcohol. Unfortunately, the regulations, as we often complain in the libertarian world, were too complex, and the ability to get permission too difficult for the thing that should be extremely simple to do. So what I'm going to do is just going to, because it's my only option to try to do an event to raise money, is I'm just going to host another version of the badgering that we had last year, where we just have a social event with the idea that everything is free, everyone is welcome. But while you're there, we will try to convince you to donate to the party. So it is the only way around it, and I'm sorry it's kind of lame, but it's the only thing I can think of, and I'm going to host it at my house in Cascade Locks on the Friday beforehand. And then after that event, I will probably go to pick up Karen Ann Harless from the airport later that night, and then I will take her into town, and we will do a hike or something, which is also free in Forest Park, where I will teach a free tutorial on maybe some basics of foraging in the park, and maybe we'll have a little unofficial pub crawl the night before the convention, maybe some unofficial speaking by certain people, and then we will have our convention the next day. So, and I am looking for maybe somebody who would be possibly interested in hosting Karen Ann at their if you live in Portland, maybe hosting her for the night. So just so she doesn't have to drive with me all the way back to Cascade Locks and then back in the next day. So might be nice. But I will put her up, I think the Friday evening and the evening on Sunday, and then she flies back early in the morning on Monday. So
All right. Thank you. And let me see. Okay, just for the sake of the minutes, we do have Marion Skinner as an observer as well. Welcome. All right. Anything else on the convention? All right. Next is the 2023 LPO leadership elections. Pablo's not here. I already mentioned it under IT, but really the next thing to do is to load the data from the election into the app. The app is a custom application that was built a few iterations of the board ago, And so Pablo's had to basically go through it almost line by line with the help of ChatGPT and figure out how it works. And so implementing it has been a little bit of a challenge. And again, he's not had the opportunity to complete that just as of yet. However, the outcome of the election is certain. And so I'm going to actually hop over here to our website. So everyone who appears on this page of the website has been elected to the position that they ran for. In addition, Aaron Robnett has secured enough write-in votes to be elected. And besides Mr. Robnett running for Public Policy Board, there were no other legal write-ins. So everyone who ran got in, and Mr. Robnett fills one of the positions on the Public Policy Board that nobody was running for. That being said, our bylaws still require us to tabulate the votes using the specific method with regards to that has to be basically done with the voting app, and that has not been completed as of just yet. But the outcome is certain, and so we can be notifying people that they're going to be in.
I have a question. Has the bylaws committee considered changing how we do these votes for internal board
Yes.
elections? Okay. Good.
That specifically deleting that is deleting that requirement is one of our favorite proposals.
I see. Great.
So in the future, future boards ought to be able to still use single transferable vote or star voting or whatever is available as far as technical options. But they should not be required to go through this process of applying the custom software solutions that were built a decade ago by somebody who's no longer with the party. So that's what I have for 2023 LPO leadership elections. For the sake of the minutes, I think I'll actually go ahead and read off those who were elected. I think that would be beneficial to have in the minutes somewhere. We have Taylor Rickey, Nicholas Kaltenbach, Pablo Serrato, Gunnar Power, Eric Pennell, Eric Bork, and Travis West, Brad Lee, and Will Hobson have all been elected to the Libertarian Party of Oregon Board of Directors for the 2023 through 2025 term. And the Public Policy Board, Sonia Feintek, Michael Morrow, Rob Rhodes, Toby Knight Meeks, Peter Vandenberg, Maury Strauss, Lars Jefferson, Brendan Tolliver, and Aaron Robnett as a write-in have all been elected to the Public Policy Board. So again, the formal tabulation hasn't been completed, but the results are nonetheless certain.
Can I ask a couple quick questions about the election?
Please.
One, did we have any ballots that we had to mail out?
So we didn't mail out any ballots. We mailed out ballot notices. So we sent out, basically it wasn't even an envelope. It was a self-mailer, a single piece of paper folded.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And did we, oh darn, what was I about to ask? How many electronic ballots did we receive in total? Do you have a rough idea?
Right. So in total, we received 58. However, 6 of those had to be spoiled because we received them on May 1st, and that was an error on my part in configuring the election. I had it in my notes, May 1st. I like circled it, and then I did a little bit of a flip in my head. May 1st was the day that the results would be able to be figured out, but I set it as the last day to collect votes when I configured the election. So we received 6 votes on May 1st that we then had to go into the software and invalidate them. But we received a total of 52 valid votes.
which is significant. How's that compared to the last board only election?
I don't recall. I believe it is less, but it's always our, I mean, we're dealing with a percentage of a percentage because the only people voting in this are the people who were eligible through certain means.
Right. I was gonna say significantly less, but that was our primary, not our
Right. Our primary had I want to say 400 some odd
yeah, that's
ballots gone.
about right. But then I realized that wasn't the correct election to compare it to. So
All right. Anything else on leadership elections? Okay. Open forum. Observers may speak on any item that they wish. So let us know what your thoughts are, please.
did you note that Marion made it back?
I did.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you again to our observers and volunteers. The next meeting will be the transitional board meeting required by the bylaws. Technically, the board has not set that. The convention committee, correct me if I'm wrong, Will, is scheduling that for the end of the convention, or is it the end of business?
We will be, yes.
Well, this board has to officially set it. And
Oh,
so
okay.
that's why I'm checking before
I believe
we do that right now.
I believe the convention committee is under the assumption that it is happening directly after the end of business of the convention at the end of this month.
So sorry.
We haven't voted on it yet, no.
Right. Well, the board sets it.
Right.
So like the convention committee has to do whatever the board says. But if the
Right.
convention committee has a plan, then I'm inclined to follow that plan as long as the board's happy to do so. So do you happen to have the schedule handy? I will look for it here in a moment if I need to.
1 second. Do not have it handy, but I can find it.
I just don't want to say that we're putting ourselves at the end of business and then realize that there was like a time sensitive panel or speaker or something going there that we are shoving.
Marion seems to say that we have time to accommodate it at the end of business. If I'm interpreting your comment correctly, Marion.
Marion, do you have the tentative schedule right in front of you?
No, I'm also trying to pull it up without losing my connection.
I'm gonna go look for it real quick. Okay, so are we aiming at convention close or are we aiming at following the public policy committee? Because the bylaws committee and the public policy committee, I believe, are the actual business of the convention, and then everything after that is doesn't technically fall under that category. Most of the convention committee is here, so I think that we can, or at least half of us are.
Yeah, I mean, I would just do it at the end of convention,
Okay.
after the convention close. So
Yeah,
right.
because it's gonna take every single volunteer that we have working that day to hold those meetings. It would be great if it happened at convention close.
Okay, convention closed. Does anyone want to make that motion?
I move that the transitional board meeting take place in the close of the convention at the end of the month.
I'll second.
All right, Will moves, Kenny seconds. Let's just hear ayes.
What, can I ask a question?
You may ask a question before we vote.
And I don't think it's actually has to happen beforehand, but at the transitional board meeting, can we do anything besides just transition?
The bylaws specify that the transitional board meeting includes both the outgoing and the incoming boards, and the incoming board at that time has to select a chair and vice chair. And then they also may select a secretary and treasurer. Or I think that they could also hold off on that and wait until they had another meeting, but they have to select a chair and vice chair at that meeting. And I think that that's like the designated business of that particular meeting, is to select at minimum a chair and vice chair.
I was just curious because it seems like if we get, say, a bunch of minutes out and approved between now and then, maybe a consent agenda item could happen before the transition, but I don't know.
I don't think, I'll check on this here following our meeting. I'll take a look at what our bylaws actually say about the transitional board meeting, but my understanding is that it's not precisely an agenda, which maybe is something that we should change. Probably not this convention, but anyway, it's not precisely an agenda, but it says that what happens at this meeting, which I would tend to interpret as being somewhat limiting.
Okay.
And I mean, the incoming board could be like, okay, so we're going to schedule our next regular meeting for in 5 minutes. and then conduct their first official regular meeting if they wanted to do that, if something needed to be figured out. So technically this board has the option to meet again and knock out a consent agenda and stuff as well. I don't know if there's appetite for that.
I mean, maybe right before the transitional board meeting. Just that then the next board doesn't have to clean up our stuff, but
I mean, all that it's going to be is I'll provide the next chair, whoever that may be, with a copy of an agenda that includes the consent agenda items that were passed by email.
okay.
So it shouldn't be too messy for them.
Okay.
And then they will anyway. This is always a funny thing, is as an artifact, they're going to have to approve the minutes from this meeting that we're having right now.
Right.
Well, I suppose unless I get them out in time. Anyway, and then approve the minutes from the transitional board meeting. And like, it's always a little bit funky when you pass things along. But anyway, does everyone have the information that they need to conduct this vote? All right, the motion is to make the next meeting the transitional board meeting, which is to take place at the close of the convention on May 28th. All in favor, please say aye.
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 I will vote aye. Any opposed? I'm pretty sure that was 5 ayes. So, okay, not a libertarian among us. All right, in that case, we are concluded, and just want to say, kind of at the close, almost at the close of my tenure as chair, that I've really enjoyed working with everybody, and don't be strangers.
We appreciate you, Timothy. Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll have something special for you at the convention.